Welcome, everyone. It's Sunday service. Yay. Always excited about coming forward, y'all. Today's no different. Today I got an interesting conversation for you today. We're going to be moving between the Apocrypha and the Judeo-Christian Bible, King James Version. I'm going to read out of the book of Jeremiah, y'all, today. And I'm going to start off with Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 14, okay? But before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and invoke the Spirit of God to assist me in the discernment of God's word, and we will begin. Heavenly Father, I come before you in love, looking for you. I ask that you lessen me and magnify yourself through me today. Let your water flow unimpeded through me. Bind all energies in this space that are not conducive to the goodness that you choose to do through me in this space today. Intercept them with your Holy Spirit and transform them into whatever it is that you see that I need to convey your truth in all power and in all truth. I love you and I thank you and I trust you. And in God's name I pray. Amen. All right, y'all. Chapter 3, verse 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you. And I will take you, one of a city, and two of a family. And I will bring you to Zion. Okay, so, this was on my spirit today, y'all. And it has to do with where we are in the whole paradigm of things right now. Where are we as a group of people, as a unit, as a world of people? Where are we? When we read the book of Revelation or we read any of the books of the Bible, do we know where we are in the storyline? I know that many of the older books that are just conveying things that have already happened, like the book of Jeremiah and the various other books, we can look at these stories and use the experiences that are conveyed in the stories as roadmaps as to how we could better lead our own lives by way of the experiences that the people that these books are telling the monumental story of. But books like Revelation, how do we know where we are in these prophecies? Even the prophecies that Isaiah and many of the prophets spoke to in the Old Testament, how do we know where we are as it relates to that? Who is concocting the timeline? Who is keeping track of the goings on of the world? How do we know where we are? When we look at the stories of what happened in the second book of Baruch and in the book of Jeremiah, we see something very monumental happening. The book of Jeremiah, in the biblical context, the Judeo-Christian biblical context of the book of Jeremiah, does not really go into great detail as the Apocrypha does, as to how monumentally important this timeline that Jeremiah lived in was and is. I cannot express it enough. This timeline is the most paramount timeline that I have in my mind when I refer to the Bible, because it is the ending of a cycle. Yeah. What we see in Jeremiah, or during Jeremiah's time and being conveyed in the books of Baruch, is a monumental reset. It's a reestablishment. It is a repositioning of power. It is the passing of a baton, a change of age. As many say, okay, well, there are 12 ages and there are 12 astrological houses and all these different things. And just as one is born within a particular astrological house, you can consider that an age. Yet when that time frame to be able to capture the essence of that house has passed, there is a passing of a baton, a change of age, a reset that happens. And that is in the transitioning into the beginning of a new age, the new dominant aspects of a new house, transitions of power from an old energy, ideology, way of living to a new. What we see in the book of Baruch and being conveyed in the book of Jeremiah is this exact same thing as it relates to the earth and the house of Israel. Very important. This book conveys the change. It's a change of, you could call it monarchy. It's a change of dominance. It goes from the dominance of Israel, the Hebraic house, to the dominance of another house. And it all has to do with what God allows. The change in leadership, the change in ownership, the change in reign is solidified, is coalesced by the blessing of God. This is what gives it power. It is a legitimate inheritance. It is a legitimate change. It's not one that Israel can fight and say, we're depending on God to help us overtake these people because they have wrongly taken the scepter of power. No. This, in fact, has been crafted by God, handcrafted. And this is what makes it so numbing to these people. They are dumbfounded. They can't say anything. And God does it in the face of everybody. All of Israel's enemies know this. They are first in line, competing against one another to be the ones given the power next. You see, it would be as if they would not know who would be able to inherit this power, but they would know that somebody would get it. They wouldn't know that when God would do it. But it seems as if they would know when we look at the activities of these people all throughout the Old Testament, there would be a silver lining in the activities of all of these neighboring nations, the Gentile nations, which provoked them to focus so much on these people to get them off track, so that when the time came, they would not be worthy of keeping such a title. And that God would be bound in a way to open the gates for other people to capture this energy. But these people would not understand that. And because they didn't understand that, it didn't matter. It happened anyway. They just were dumbfounded. They were surprised. They were the only ones surprised. The other nations were not surprised at this. In fact, the other nations were expecting it. This is why they worked night and day to learn these people the way that they did. And to focus all of their attention on managing these people at a distance. So that when the time came, God could say, yeah, they may have done some wrong in turning you, but you knew better. I can't micromanage what everybody around you does just so that you don't get distracted. I've put in you everything you need to get the job done. I've walked with you. I've given you signs and wonders. I've given you written law that you could have amongst yourself when I'm not able to walk with you. I've given you all kinds of physical, tangible items that you can use as resource to tap into me if you ever are confused as to what you should do. Ephods and arks of the covenant. I've set your system up, bodily system up, in a way that I'm always with you. And I've given you a crown of sovereignty, an executive position in this earth as king and queens of this plane. For you to manage yourself, your kingdom, as such. But they wouldn't do it. 2 Baruch, chapter 1. And it came to pass in the 25th year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, that the word of the Lord came to Baruch, the son of Neriah, and said to him, have you seen all that this people are doing to me? That the evils which these 2 tribes which remained have done are greater than those, the 10 tribes which were carried away captive? This is what I'm saying. God allowed 10 tribes to be captive in Babylon. He's allowed the Assyrians and the Babylonians to have their way with these people at certain junctions. And these 10 tribes, when they're carried away, they're taken advantage of by the people that have taken them captive. I'll go further. For the former tribes were forced by the kings to commit sin, but these 2 of themselves have been forcing and compelling their kings to commit sin. This was the final straw. God allowed the 10 tribes to go into captivity. And he would allow the kings of these nations that held them captive to mistreat them, to indebt themselves to Israel, because this is God's MO. He's always allowing you to do what you feel like you can do. Go for what you know. I'm going to sit my avatar, my child, in front of you, and I'm going to see what you want to do with them. I'm going to make you believe. I'm not going to make you. I'm going to allow you to believe. Do whatever you want. You have the ability to. They're sitting ducks. And then I'm going to let you do as you wish. As I tally all that you do. Because you're going to owe for that. I'm going to take all that you think you're going to do, hold it against you, and establish these people because of that. And that was the goal. But what the other 2 tribes that were not enslaved would do is they would take on the mantle of the wickedness that the kings that enslaved their 10 brethren were doing. They would begin to mimic that. Instead of bunkering down into what is real, what they were innately desiring to do, they began stepping outside of themselves and mimicking what these nations were doing to their brethren. And God said, you didn't pass that. That alley-oop I set up for you, you failed. You didn't make the mark. You didn't even try. You got lost. You began mimicking the one that I was setting up to owe you. You began doing like them. Fighting fire with fire. Lowering yourselves to their level to meet them where they are. And now I'm going to have to sit you down. I have no other choice. I have to. I honor my word. This is what I have. This is the law that I created for everybody. And I got to honor it. Even with you. So I don't want to stay on that too long, because where I'm leading is God would have led these people all from Genesis to now. They've seen miracles. They've gone high. They've gone low. They've gone in between. And God says, now I'm passing the power. An age has come and gone. And I've got to change the seat of power. So he gives the power to the Gentile nations. Completely pulling the rug on Israel. Completely disempowering them. Humiliation at its finest. They are beyond humiliated. And this is the breakup of the house. This is where everybody will scatter. And this is where this is like seeing a bag of beans being fallen on the ground. The bag of beans being ripped open and the beans hitting the ground, and they just scatter in all directions. Rice falling, scattering. There will be some that scatter with gifts, some that scatter with not gifts, some that scatter with relationships. They're all scattering. And what they will do is there will be some that will go and sell off aspects of the power, of the knowledge. And then there will be some that will bunker down even more so into the truth of God and align even more so within that. And in doing these things, a dark age would come upon the house. It would be the haves and the have-nots. This activity that has taken place when God comes upon Baruch and Jeremiah and tells them that he is taking the power from Israel, Israel would not regain its level of prominence of God, through God, even today. God would come down. In 2 Baruch, it says that God would come down, and first thing that God would do would be quarantining the daughters of Zion. We're going back to this daughter thing. It doesn't say per se that he's quarantining the daughters of Zion. But what it says here in chapter 6, verse 2, it says, "And I was grieving over Zion and lamenting over the captivity which had come of the people." Quarantining the daughters of Zion. "And behold, suddenly a strong spirit raised me and bore me aloft over the hill of Jerusalem. And I beheld, and behold, 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the city, each of them holding a torch of fire in their hands. And another messenger began to descend from heaven, said to them, Hold your lamps and do not light them until I tell you. For I am first sent to speak a word to the earth and to place it in what the Lord, the Most High, has commanded me." Listen. "And I saw him descend into the Holy of Holies." This is the feminine. The Holy of Holies is the holy city. It is the feminine city of Zion. "And take from there the veil and the holy ark." The ark. And the proprietary covering and the 2 tablets and the holy raiment of the priest and the altar of incense and the 48 precious stones which the priest was adorned in all the holy vessels of the dwelling place. And he spoke to the earth with a loud voice. "Earth, earth, earth, hear the word of the mighty God, and receive what I commit to you, and guard them until the last times, so that when you are ordered, you may restore them, so that strangers may not get possession of them. For the time comes when Jerusalem will also be delivered for a time, until it is said that it is again restored forever. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up. There it is. The earth opens its mouth and swallows up the holiest of holies of the Temple of Jerusalem. It goes down into the earth. Totally disappear. To protect it. Because this is the power of the entire structure. It is the central access point. Without it, it could not exist. It is to be protected with everything. God is showing the changing of times right here. God is showing how a people will go into darkness and how he will hand the scepter of power over to the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and how the mind state of these people would need to shift. How they would need to shift from the mindset of establishing themselves physically in this earth to establishing themselves spiritually. God will show through his activity in leading these children through their monumental walks all the way through Egypt and through their highs and lows through the promised land and all of the intricate experiences that they had throughout it all. What alignment does in allowing you to conquer and to overcome. How important alignment is. Many of you, God has shown you throughout the walks of your life how alignment is the main attractant to all the goodness in your life, whether it's material wealth, you want to get that house, you want to get that husband, you want to get that wife, you want to get that business going, you want to get that car. And how the dynamic between spirituality, the way that you see the world and the things that you desire of the world and how you see yourself in the world and your desire to receive things by way of what you see, feel, and know. And how all of this connects itself. How all of it comes together. Yet you will get to a point in your life like these children would get to, where there would be no more need to reach for all of these things. You will need to go inward. You will need to be able to determine what is important and what is not after a certain junction of acquiring stuff. After a certain junction of going through situations in life with people, you must get to a place where you determine what is important and what is not. You must graduate. That is what is happening here. I'm going somewhere with this. These people would see this situation as a disadvantage, but it is an extreme advantage. It is the shift between earthly prominence and internal ascension. Internal ascension was necessary all along, but they were completely enamored in the earthly prominence at the same time. God had built this nation of people up into a monumental nation amongst all other mighty nations. Yet they had a hard time balancing the physicality and the spirituality, even though they had done it and had mastered it in a sense, they couldn't keep it stable. They were constantly in and out. So God says, I'm going to pass the scepter of power. And in passing the scepter of power, you now don't have that physical aspect at your reach any longer as you did before. But you still have that internal aspect. It is said that those that are born into this realm, that decide, those souls that make a conscientious decision to incarnate into this realm, are doing the hardest thing that you can do in the heavens. Because to incarnate in this realm at this time is to incarnate with a blank slate. That is what God is doing here in Baruch. He's creating a blank slate. All of that monumental stuff that you were talking about that made you so great before, no more. No more. You're not great anymore. Not by word of mouth. All of your enemies have been able to come upon you. They're wearing your mantle. They're dressed up with your stuff. They're saying that they're you. And you got to sit there and look at them and be like, you don't even remember you. A generation will come and go after this and would not even remember the monumental levels of success that these people experienced. It's as if not only did God bury the temple, the holiest of holies, in the ground, he buried everything. It's as if this is another reset that happened like the flood. These people would not remember all of the things that God did for their people, for their people before. It would be generations that would come that would have spent so long in the wilderness that they would have forgotten all the monumental things. They will take on the mantle of those that haven't, though. They will take on the mantle of the Assyrians and the Babylonians and all the people that know the story, the real story of these people. These people would take on the information that those beams of the house that hit the ground and scattered when this transition of power happened, will go and sell them. All of those vessels of the house, those prominent vessels, the princes, the priests, all of the people of power, were the people that the Babylonians took and put in their kingdom. Jeremiah. That's why Jeremiah is in Babylon. Daniel. And they're having them work for them and serve them. And they're treating them very good and giving them prominent positions so that they can get the information. And they're getting all of the information. Yet the people will be left in darkness. It will be very few that would have the information. And those that had it will become prominent. Whole bloodlines created. They will go underground with this information. Kingdoms of power erected off of this knowledge. But it would be somewhat like Nimrod did. It would be turned in a way where it would be commingled with abominations. And the people will be in darkness. They will become repetitively born into this existence, starting from a blank slate, forgetting all of the truth of who they are. All of it. and having to work themselves up incrementally, lifetime after lifetime, making mistakes, getting lost, doing things in the world that don't serve them, wasting time, doing great things, learning great things, achieving great things, doing all the above, lifetime after lifetime. And they would rise up. There would come a time that they would rise up those amongst them to levels of consciousness. They would remember. It would be as if the ascension would be through lifetimes of experience. And through experience, it would unlock certain gates within them that would remind them of things that would help them level up and solidify themselves, act as carrots to keep them ascending, to keep them desiring to ascend in that particular pattern. And in ascending, they remember. They put the body back together of their beloved. They search the world to find the pieces of the scattered body, and they go and they get it. They go into the depths of hell, the depths of the hell of their own existence. What do I mean? They've forgotten who they are, and so they make mistakes and they wrestle with decisions that they made and that they didn't expect to experience, and they come out of it and they're made better because of it. Hellish places in their existence. The underworld in their existence. They go into these places without the advantage of remembering. This is what makes it so precious. They go into these places without the knowledge that one may have that comes from a bloodline that has guided them incrementally through. They don't have the insider knowledge. They weren't privy to the game. They're not privy to what to experience and how to navigate it. They don't have a mentor. This is what makes this so difficult. This is what makes the one that is able to overcome so monumental. This is what makes the task so difficult, friend. It's the internal struggle, the desire, the love you have to wrestle with the hellish places, having the least advantage. The scepter of power has been taken, but you still got the stock. You're misunderstood by people, doubted, judged, lied upon, witchcraft and all the likes thereof going on, and you're still swimming like it's nothing. Battling the demons within yourself. That is what most people battle in this life, is the demons within themselves. And facing them and naming them, controlling them. And in doing so, they bend to your will. They are useful to you instead of you bending to them. And you keep moving through the underworlds and the hellish places of life. And you dominate in those places. You don't move in those places as if you're a peasant. You move like a king or a queen in those places because you are. They're yours. It's as if you're moving through rooms of your own self, introducing yourself to those things that are to serve you in those rooms. You're getting enamored and acclimated to aspects of yourself and introducing yourself to you consciously. This is what these people will go through. This is what will be brought on behind this reset. They will come into this with nothing, completely oblivious. And then it begins to unfold itself through experiences. Hell, high water, wickedness, love. And it's the love that will propel them forward. They were brought so low. Because they were exalted so high. Duality. And in their lowliness, them coming out of such a degree of lowliness, ignorance, them overcoming, the one that is able to overcome is qualified to lead. More than qualified. This is why I don't judge people that move in ignorance. I know ignorance is an offensive word to some people. I've been ignorant, friend. We're all ignorant at one time or another. We don't know. And we don't know that we don't know. We're offended at people that tell us we don't know. That's ignorance. But you need to be ignorant. Because it is out of ignorance that you are brought full circle. It is your activity of coming into your knowing, remembering, and knowing that your hells must be as deep and as high as the heights you've ascended. I'm telling you, this is duality. How could it be any other way? And you don't get to experience your hells at different increments. You've got to ascend in your hells with the same level of speed and force as you ascended into your heights. I'm going to tell you, holler if you hear me. I hate to tell you that because I know what it's like. I know what it's like, friend. Telling you. But what other way is there? This is why I chose chapter 3, verse 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married to you. I can't give up on you. Y'all are my little babies. And I will take you one of a city and two of a family and bring you to Zion. I don't need everybody. I didn't create this with a multitude of people. And I don't need to do it again with a multitude of people. You mighty monumental nation of people came from one man. So that in itself tells you, I don't need all of you to get it. In fact, you won't. You will not. But I do need those of you that do get it, to get it, and to stand in that Chapter 15, verse 5. For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee, or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? Who's going to care about you? Oh, you think it's going to be those ones that you worship because you've forgotten. Listen to this. Chapter 2. Saying to the stock, thou art my father, and to the stone, thou hast brought me forth. For they have turned their back unto me, and not their face. But in the time of their trouble, they will say, arise and save us. God is saying, it is through the hard times that you recognize who I am. God is saying, I need you to recognize me all throughout it. This is the work of your life. This is the work of your life, friend. This is the work of your life for you to remember to put everything in its proper place. Surely there was some time in your life when you were younger and you needed to go on, have experiences that taught you incrementally the system, the methods that you need to utilize to align to the will of God. Desiring stuff. Oh, I want to get a car, like I said earlier. Okay, I'm going to pray. I'm going to visualize myself in that car. Whether you knew what you were doing or not, I'm going to meditate on that car. You're driving or you're on the bus going to work and you're thinking about it like, dang, it sure would be nice being in that car. I could see it. I could feel it. That's meditation. And then you start acting in ways that will attract that to you. What are you doing? You're on your way to work. You understand the method. It's the same way with aligning to the things of God. What you're doing is aligning to the things of God without you knowing it. You're using your faculty, your spirit, the Spirit of God in you to attach to that material item, meeting it where it's at and seeing yourself with it, enjoying it, feeling it. You go about life doing things that will be conducive to it coming to you, working, earning money. Much of your younger years will be doing these types of things, learning the methods, making mistakes, friend. Yet God is saying, you need to get to a place where you have mastered that consciously. You understand why you do that and how it relates to me. Put me center. Acknowledge me. Don't acknowledge that material item. Acknowledge me. But what many of us do is we never really even acknowledge God as we do the materialism. This is what God is saying. God is saying you are born into this at this point for you to remember, for you to have total recall. It is expected of you to have total recall. Of what matters. To go into the deepest aspects of yourself and face yourself. Face the demons, face whatever. Because you got to know. And you're going in there because you need to piece back aspects of yourself. You need to strengthen the beloved, which is you. And as with anything that we love, we will go to the depths to get it, to protect it. It is love that leads you. There is no stronger force. And then you going into you through experience. What do I mean by to you? I'm trying to make this so people can understand. How do you go into you in love? You let something happen that's threatening. You let something come upon you and it threaten you, or it threaten what you love. Do you abandon it and say, oh, I'm afraid, I can't help, I don't know what to do? Or do you face that thing? Does something else stand up in you? Something mighty, you yourself will be like, what the what? You don't even have a second to think about it. It just gets it done. Love, friend. But that aspect of yourself that stands up in you is the truest, most formidable aspect of who you are. And that's the aspect nobody wants to see. But God wants to see that. And it comes from hellish situations. It comes from threats that brings it forward. No more are you doing like the Bible is saying, sitting at this buffet table of gods, thinking a stone is a god, or okay, I have enough time. Oh, I can make this cup a god. Let's see if that'll work. Let me make this a god. Put God. Let me give it a name. Put a name on it. Okay, I'm gonna start praying to this and see. You don't have time for that. Oh no, it's crunch time. God is saying, but where are thy gods that thou hast made thee? Let them arise. And if they can save thee in the time of thy trouble. For according to the number of thy cities are thy gods, O Judah. This is God saying, I have reset this thing. I want to see what you do with this now. All of your imaginations, all of that folly that you were creating in your good times, when you had abundance and there was no pressure, let me see how those gods work out for you. In vain have I smitten your children. They receive no correction. Your own sword have devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. God is saying, in vain you give your children up to these gods. They're not gods. Goodness, y'all. Your own sword have devoured your prophets. Your own sword. You devour those that I send to help you. This is how lost you are. Ignorant. But God says, all of you will come full circle. It just may take longer than others. You just may have to suffer in the hellish places of your life longer than others. It's all up to you. No one is greater than another in this existence. We are all neck to neck. I don't care if you're living in a shelter, if you're living in a house, if you're living in an apartment, if you're living on the street. At the end of the day, we're all neck to neck. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, friend, we all got the same stock. We all bound to the same laws. All of us. In our fullness, reach the same destination. In our fullness. It just may take some of us longer to get there. And some of us must go through hell longer than others. That's it, and that's all. But what has happened is, instead of ascending internally and seeking spiritual alignment, you want to make comfort of something that has already been transitioned out. The book of Baruch conveys how God would transfer the scepter of power, making a distinct divide. from what the Hebrews, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 mighty nations of this earth should be focusing their attention on, and what those that are bound here have dominion over. There are those that are bound here. This is permanent. And then there are those that are here for a season. Those spirits that I spoke to that decide to come here and take on the hardest task. They sign up to come to ascend with nothing to start. A long journey is this. No one in the heavens experiences this type of thing. In the heaven, they have all knowledge. That's what makes it so difficult. To come into something with zero, to get thrown into a game that you know nothing of. You have no mentor in. No dedicated person, consistent, that you can trust to lead you outside of the God within you. Yet through experiences, through leaning in on nothing other than that which is innately in you, through reading Holy Scripture that has been rewritten, and allowing the Spirit of God to decipher what needs to be extracted from it that will assist you in truth. To move in a game that you don't know the rules of. And to interpret the data being conveyed from the players within the game that will lead you to truth by using nothing but the Spirit of God as the sifter. The one that can prevail and go into the depths of hell. Come out with power and knowing, and who was able to locate aspects of the body of their beloved. Remember and put it together. To remember and put it together. This one. This is the greatest work of your life. And nobody will understand it but you and God. This is the work. And it all comes from the hellish places of life, right? It comes from the disappointing things. It comes from the bad decisions. It comes from the astonishment. Just as these people were astonished when God came and reset this whole thing. And gave the scepter of power away. Took it from their hands and gave it away to another group of people. A scepter of power that Israel does not have still. The Hebraic house does not own this scepter of power. Why? Because that leg of the junction has come and gone. That scepter of power was a physical scepter of power. It is a transition from the physicality to the spiritual. It is the passing of the baton to the other nations, allowing them to partake of the spiritual nature that comes from these people, in which they did not have. How do I know that? 2 Baruch. And I will scatter this people among the nations, that they may do good to the nations. And my people will be disciplined, and the time will come when they will seek for the prosperity of their times. This is it. He will scatter you. God has scattered you for you to do good unto the nations. If they don't receive you, if they look to make it difficult for you, it is not your job to be taken advantage of and a blessing at the same time. God has allowed the children to go into a docile state amongst the nations. Take the physicality out of it. The spirituality is the power. Once we can get that and stand in that, we regain momentum in that. You're loved more than you'll ever know. I'll never stop telling you. Be good to yourselves and be good to one another.